Hello and welcome to Business Champions. I'm Brian Sexton, joined as always by Paul Lajoie, the real business champion on this show. Paul, how are you?
I am great, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. And we've got a great show for you today. We have as our guest Brian Bradley from Bradley Legal. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing good, Brian. So it looks like we've got a good joke coming in. Two Brians and a Paul walk into a bar.
Yeah, listen, if you get that one, I'm going to steal it and use it. As a broadcaster, I learned a long time ago that the best ideas are like gin rummy. They come off the discard pile. Please email that one to me. But let's start with this. You have a long list of success in your career. How has failure led to success for Bradley Legal?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I came out of starting my own law firm right away out of law school a long time ago, when 08, 09 when the economy tanked. And so I just had to learn business by failing because most people, especially in the legal realm, aren't taught how to run a business. We're taught about basic legal theory. And so I just had to learn business strategy and marketing. And every time I made an error or wasted funds on a marketing strategy, I just had to learn to adapt and improvise and modify, overcome it, kind of like military principles, and learn from failure and not give up. And I generally find that most people, when they go out and start a business, they think it's going to be easy. They make the first couple of errors and quit and walk away. And that's the last thing that you need to do. You just need to learn from your failures and keep moving forward and not quit. And eventually you should have a better chance of succeeding.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I love it. And I'm going to stay on mistakes here. So your clients that you bring in for asset protection, what are one or two of the biggest mistakes they make before they actually come in to see you?
Yeah, so two of the big ones are, one is just not doing anything. And then the other one is mistaking what asset protection is not. A lot of people will call in saying, I want to protect my assets, I don't want to pay taxes. And that's just fraud. If I can do that for everybody, my phone would never stop ringing. You're taxed on your worldwide income. So asset protection is not about avoiding or hiding and not paying taxes. It's about setting up the legal barriers before you're being sued by a creditor, like a third party coming after your money, before you're being sued. And that goes to the other one, is thinking they can come to me after the fact, like after I got in an accident or after I'm getting in a lawsuit. That's, again, the straight definition of fraud. So you need to set up asset protection before you're in trouble, when everything's calm and peaceful, for it to work. Think of it kind of like getting house insurance before a fire and car insurance before an accident. If you wait till after those events, you're not going to be able to get the coverage for the incident, right? Same thing applies in the legal realm when it comes to asset protection.
Okay. So to further keep going down that road, so from a small business owner perspective, is there some things that you do a little bit different for protection of their assets?
Yeah, so if we're looking at it depends on what the business is. And I'll use one example would be, two good examples would be let's say maybe you're a doctor just starting out and you have your own practice and you get your building and you have your own practice. And a lot of people will go to their CPA and the CPA will create an S Corp for the doctor's office, which is great, right? It's good for taxes. Then the issue is, what do you do with all of your medical equipment? And the same thing if you own a trucking company and you have a bunch of flatbed trucks. You don't want to put them all in the S Corp. You generally want to put the assets themselves into an LLC, hold them in the LLC, and then lease them back to the company if it's going to be an S Corp. And the reason is, if you hold assets in an S Corp and you get sued, I can't move the assets out because you owe all that deferred taxation back to the IRS. And most people just do not have that amount of money to pay back to the IRS. So the assets are just stuck. We can't do anything. So general rule is, I don't mind if it's like a small business, the actual business entity being an S Corp for tax purposes. But if you're going to hold assets like real estate or truck beds or medical equipment, put them into their own LLC and then lease them back to the company. That way, if the S Corp company gets sued, you at least aren't going to lose your equipment.
Paul, in a world where people can learn to do so many things by watching YouTube, it strikes me, Brian, that people can't learn about asset protection and things that you do by watching YouTube. So how can our viewers who have these kinds of questions and issues connect with you? What's the best and most expedient way to get to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you're 100% right on that. To get a hold of me, jump on my website, www.btblegal.com. Go through all the free educational resources we have there. Start learning and educating yourself on this topic of asset protection. And then that way, when you do talk to attorneys and experts, you actually have some knowledge, because this isn't generally taught. And then there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. So you want to have a general foundation of information to know if you're being BS legally or not. And also just a good source of questions to ask. And feel free to email me, Brian, Brian, at btblegal.com.
And we'll, of course, put all of your information in our show notes and get it up across all of our social platforms. We really appreciate your expertise and insight. Thanks for joining us on Business Champions.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And we'll see you next
Brian.
time here on Business Champions, part of the Daily News Network.
BizBuyPro supports individuals through the acquisition process in many ways. First and foremost, we can find a business for you. You come to us and you give us the parameters geographically, size, like maybe 2 million in revenue, and maybe an area you want to be a plumbing contractor, and we'll go find that for you. I think really the most important thing from BizBuyPro is, after you find that business, working through the valuation, how much you're paying for it. As I always say, you don't make money when you sell, you make money when you buy.